Thank you guys for coming out here today. I am Miss Stewart, Jessica Stewart, 8th grade science teacher. Most of you guys know me over here. Thank you to Miss Barton for bringing her classes out today, and Mrs. Sims. I see Miss Paul is here. Thank you for coming. Especially thankful to Tall Timbers for coordinating this, and especially for helping us coordinate getting the longleaf forest planted. Would you guys raise your hand if you were a part of the planting efforts in 2017? Awesome. Well, look what you guys have created right here. Here it is growing. 5 years later, this will be the third burn on this section. The first one was in 2019 and the second was in 2020. So 2 years later, we will get to watch it have the prescribed fire today. We also have some volunteers from the Bradfordville Fire Department out here, one of them being a parent. Thank you, Jeff, for coming, and Carl as well. We're going to have a couple drones flying overhead, one from a first grade parent, and it has thermal imagery with it, so that will be really neat to look at. And then our own Mr. Space Scout is going to fly the drone. Mr. Lowe is out here filming, so pretty big day. Thank you guys for coming to watch this. So prescribed fires are very important in our area for our natural pine forests, especially longleaf pine forests. It helps put nutrients back into the soil. It helps knock back invasive species to let our native species grow. It helps some of the plants germinate. That means come to form seeds that would not normally form seeds unless they're burned at a certain time of year. And it also helps to knock down fuel, because if you have too much fuel like pine straw and dead trees and you do get a fire, it will be too hot of a fire, it will damage your forest and can even travel into neighborhoods and places that you definitely don't want to burn. So all of these efforts come into a good partnership, and we're very lucky to have this here at our school. So thank you guys for coming out. Brian Weebler with Tall Timbers, he will give us a little more overview as we get ready to get started. If you have any questions, please let him know. He will be happy to answer. He's definitely an expert. So feel free to raise your hand and ask questions.
All right, so our team down at the north end is going to start the test fire right now. We start every prescribed fire with a test fire to see if the smoke and the fire are behaving as we have anticipated based on the weather conditions. Prescribed fire is very, very dependent upon weather conditions. The prescription that we write for a prescribed fire has a whole list of all of these different parameters of the humidity and the winds, the wind directions, and transport winds, and dispersion index. A lot of different weather factors that allow us to predict how the fire is going to behave and where the smoke is going to go. As part of this fire, and every fire in the state of Florida, we run a smoke screening tool, which is a computer program developed by the state of Florida to test where we project smoke plumes to go. Sorry, the folks running on the track distracted me. And so when we ran that, the smoke for today is projected to go straight over here into the state park where we don't have a populated area. All right, so as you can see, we have now moved into full ignitions. And you can see that as we add heat to that fire, we start to loft that smoke straight up into the air. We use a combination of different firing techniques. Over on the west side, when that fire is coming from over there, we call that a head fire, where the wind is actually pushing the fire into the fuels, and that is the fastest, largest fire. We started this with a backing fire, where the fire is working against the wind. There we go, and there's the wind doing exactly what we want it to do. Jessica mentioned earlier that this was planted by Maclay students and parents in December of 2017. I didn't get to see the show of hands. Who was here 2017? Wow! A good number of you have, excellent, got your hands dirty doing this project. And there you can see they're bringing those flanking fires up the sides right now. And that's going to speed the fire up, heat things up, and we want to create that column of hot air around that fire to just keep lifting that smoke right up and out and over the state park. And it's doing its thing right now. Here at Maclay School, we are working to reestablish the historic fire frequency that would have occurred in this part of the country. Does anybody know from your studies with your wonderful teachers here about how often fire used to occur here in the Red Hills region? I've got a year over here, 2 years over here is spot on, right? We have other ideas? More in that 18 months to 2 year range. We live in an area of very, very frequent fire. Who knows what would have been the common cause of ignition of those fires before humans were here? Lightning, excellent, right? So we live in one of the lightning capitals of the world. We also live in an area where vegetation grows really, really well, right? We have 60 inches of rain and a near year-round growing season for these plants to respond and grow back up. So there is very quickly lots of fuel ready to go to burn again from those lightning strikes. We also know that indigenous peoples that have been here for over 15,000 years were actively utilizing prescribed fire for a variety of reasons, right? And so you have this many thousands of years of lots of fire on this landscape, to the point that we have plants and animals now that are dependent upon having that fire occur on a regular basis. There we go, you can see some of that bigger fire activity down there where they lit the head fire. The tool that you see Matt Snyder using as he comes up here, as he's dripping fire, is called a drip torch. That contains a mix of diesel fuel and gasoline. The diesel fuel allows it to burn for a longer period of time, and the gasoline allows it to kind of flash up and burn a little bit quicker. So what Matt did just now was he walked into that cluster of longleaf and dropped a dot of fire in there. Just watching our winds. So he drops that dot of fire in there because where we start the fire is actually the coolest part, right? And then as the fire gets a chance to build, it goes up a lot further. Yeah, and you're witnessing the longleaf pine right there, a very fire-adapted tree, doing its thing, and all it really needs to do is protect that top bit. And this is where we'll watch for that
eddy. Leave the end open, let it breathe a little bit.
This is where we'll watch for that eddy of smoke that might come back towards us here as we get our final bit. But you can see we have a flanking fire up both sides, and then that backing fire working out of those longleaves. You may notice some insects fleeing the fire. That's very common. Also not uncommon to see birds actively hunting the front edge of a fire as you see the large insects coming out. That's a great chance for predators to come in.
Good work.
Nice.
Beautiful.
And you can see here, this is kind of an example of a head fire right in front of us. You can see the wind driving that fire, and it's preheating the fuels in front of it so that we're maximizing the amount of fire that we're getting. We've got a lot of heat for that fire, as you can see. But it's kind of interesting. Different fires do different things to vegetation, and when we make a plan, we're always looking at how do we get the vegetation changes that we want. In this site, what we're really trying to do is shift it from non-fire adapted plants that might be trying to invade the site, and really trying to go towards those native fire adapted plants that we planted here back in 2017. And you can see that this fire has gone very, very quickly as we pulled this up and we wanted to get that heat pumping and driving that smoke up high. We've been burning for about 12 minutes right now to cover a quarter acre. So a pretty snappy, quick little burn. It's not uncommon for land managers. Often they're burning 50, 60 acres at a time, and they may burn 2 or 3 of those units in a day. And that's not even large-scale burning. And there, we're just about to the point where this fire is going to... What is this fire going to run out of right now? You guys remember the 3 things the fire needs? Oxygen, fuel, and heat. That's right, you need a heat source, right? We started that heat source. So what is it running out of right now? Fuel, right? When people ask us, how do you control a fire? That seems crazy, it doesn't make any sense. We control it through how we're driving the air in, right, with those weather forecasting. But a big piece is we control it by the fuel. So we light in a pattern that makes it so that fire is running into areas where fuel no longer exists. And that is what happens here, is as we come to the end, poof, we have set it up with fire breaks around this so that there is no more place for fire to go, and you have what we have here, and the fire is over. And that is it, folks. So now the excitement, the fire is a very exciting, punctuated moment in time. But now, for the next 18 to 24 months, you get to see the results of fire, right? This is when we see those native plants that are adapted to having their tops burned off spring forth again, right? Hopefully on Thursday we'll get a nice rain, and these plants will all start to respond, and we'll see that green up that occurs. You'll see the influx of insects that come in to that fresh green up. Then you'll see the predators that come in for the insects, right? This is an entire food web that starts with this fresh growth coming up after a fire, which is very exciting times, and really neat to see how things shift and how fire shapes our landscape.